was your week?
Actually, it wasn't too bad. You know, we had a couple of run-ins with, you know, our dogs getting into the water, you know, and unfortunately I had to go in and get one dog while the other one made it to shore. But, you know, it all turned out well. And I don't think you're going to be able to get those two wolfhounds anywhere near water anytime soon. You know, they're kind of like being babied right now, so they're all spoiled, and you know they don't want to go anywhere. They want to just lay around and be rug muffins. But they're young, and you know we love them. So other than that, everybody behaved at work, and you know nothing happened the day at you know my other protection job. So we're all doing well. I want to go ahead and bring Miranda on, and we want to find out a little bit how her week went. And we want to welcome you to the show, Miranda. It's always a pleasure.
Hey, Tim. Hey, Tim, Nedra. I hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Miranda. Things are good. How's it going?
Not too bad. It's been a very busy week. We're getting close to the release of our second season, so I've been going and doing some last-minute filming and promoting, and then you know trying to go to my day job and you know perform there. So yeah, it's been a pretty crazy busy week.
So, Miranda, since you and I talked last, I know we tried to communicate a little bit today, but you know we just don't have that signal up there in those mountains in Tennessee. And, you know, and there's one thing I want to say. I really, really miss my home. But, hey, it's all good, you know. It's all good. So we know how signals work. And, you know, we want to find out a little bit about how you got started in this. Why Ghost Biker?
You know, first I got to say it is absolutely gorgeous. Just to make you a little more jealous, it is absolutely gorgeous up here in the mountains of northeast Tennessee right now. But you know, I actually got started up here. Cut my teeth into the paranormal when I was young. You know, always had an interest in it. My grandmother, she was in her 90s, and she was often telling me stories about growing up in the Appalachian Mountains and some of the different haunts. And so that was where I got my first interest in it. And just always, you know, every chance I got, reading history about different areas, especially places that I would be traveling to or that I wanted to travel to, reading the history and the local folklore. And back in 2013, I started investigating with a team. My background is in photography, so I was approached by the team leader of this team, and he asked me to look at some photographs and, you know, try to determine if the activity that they were catching in the photos was paranormal or if it could have potentially been something that we could debunk. And through the course of doing this, I ended up joining the team and investigated with them for just under a decade. And, you know, I was doing all this stuff on my own. You know, when I was with the team, we would probably investigate at least once a month, if not every other month, we would be going somewhere. But myself, I was always out investigating on the weekends or in the evenings whenever I wasn't, traveling for work. And so I was telling my friend Josh, who anybody that watches the show knows that Josh is a big part of the show, but I was telling him about some of the different places that I was visiting and some of the different things that I was doing, and he really encouraged me to start documenting all of this. And I was always putting, photos and posts on social media about the different places that I was going to. And that really got a lot of buzz at the time. People were always wanting to know more information about the place. They wanted to know the story. They wanted to know if I was investigating and whatnot. So that's actually how Ghost Biker Explorations was born at that point. I started telling Josh, what I was doing, and we got together and started filming and putting some pieces together, and that's when the show actually started.
Wow. That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, if you don't mind, so you do research on some of the places that you go to beforehand. Have you ever been surprised as far as maybe finding things that you didn't know about?
Go ahead. What was that?
I'm sorry?
What was that? Sorry, my phone here cut out. What was the end of the question?
The question was the fact that you do, I would imagine you do research, correct? You got that part, right?
Yes.
Okay. So have you ever been surprised or found something totally different than what the research had actually told you?
Yes, quite often I have. I use different resources for my research. I try to not only just, you can look online and find a lot of stuff, but if there are people who are directly connected to these locations, I'll talk to them. I'll also try to visit the local archives or, try to find different books on the location. So I'll try to find 3 or 4 different resources for each place. And there's actually been a couple places in particular where I've found different research through newspapers or through talking to individuals who are closely related to the location that was actually kind of different from what I was finding in other areas. And then when I actually went and did the investigation, I've sometimes gotten EVPs or different activity that could potentially contradict what I had found in my research.
Wow.
Now, Miranda,
when
when
you go back then?
I try to. I actually really like to visit these places on multiple times, because sometimes the night might be kind of slow, or I might not get a lot of activity, and then other times the activity is different. So if I can make multiple trips, or if I'm in the area for, either a full day or a couple days, I like to try to go visit multiple times just to kind of try to verify what I'm getting.
Interesting.
Now, Miranda, when you do these investigations, do you
Yes.
ever wonder about something following you or getting attached to you? You take precautions, I know.
Yes, sir. I always do. That's something that's actually very important to me whenever I go to a location. In my research, I like to try to find. Obviously, different people get different types of activity, but I try to research and see. I don't actively go trying to seek out anything negative or aggressive. Sometimes you just happen to find it, but I try to see what if it is somewhere that's been investigated by other people. I try to see what type of activity they're getting, and then I also will research, based on the history, and I always do my prayer of protection before and then after, and then it often seems like whenever I'm at a location, I'm often kind of whispering a prayer because again, you just never know what you're going to encounter. But I have had on at least one occasion something follow me home.
What did you do? Did it bother you, or you realized that it followed you, right?
Yes, it didn't bother me. It was more of a nuisance for my dog, and it seemed as if it was just really just wanting to get attention. I just kind of figured it was a traveler. It happened after I visited Hell's Bar Dam.
Okay.
Someone had followed me. Yeah, that was the location that it had followed me from, and it stuck around for a couple weeks. I actually caught some interesting things on my home security cameras that I plan to actually kind of show some of that, but little bit of activity for a week or so after that, and it kind of seemed like after I acknowledged it, I caught a voice. Actually, I caught two voices on my recorder and then caught some very strange things on the home security cameras. And once I acknowledged it and basically, told it wasn't welcome in my home, I didn't really have any more issues from it.
Okay. Well, most of the time that's what you have to do. You have to reclaim what is yours and set boundaries.
Yes.
A lot of times Spirit will respect that. But I believe
that's what it seemed like.
Yeah. I believe that most of us know a little bit about Hellspire Dam.
I don't.
You don't?
Am I the only one?
Nedra, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
I was in a cave. Sorry.
That's okay. But look it up and do some research on it. There is a lot of activity in that facility. That's for sure.
Yes.
So you definitely have to be
been
careful in there.
You do. I've been there 5 different times, I believe, and this was after the first time that I had investigated there. And what was really interesting about that is I had got some very specific types of activity, some very specific EVPs, and was touched, and some different things during several different sessions we had done. And what was really interesting about it is when I went back the second and third time, I was actually able to ask questions based on what I had got during that first session, and it's almost like we just sort of picked up where we left off. So that place definitely is active and definitely has some interesting activity inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
What state is it located in? Where is it at?
It's located in Guild, Tennessee, which is, it's technically East Tennessee, but it's on the southeast side, just about, I think maybe 20 miles on sort of like a northwest of Chattanooga.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh. To go there someday. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah,
Next
sounds like it.
investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of places up in that area, and that's where a lot of my ancestors are from. Is Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, Kentucky, Virginia, all those areas up in there, and we have a lot of activity with our descendants that passed away. They seem to want to just hang around and don't want to go anywhere. One place is up in a place called Tilly Bend up in Georgia. I've got some ancestors that were buried there, and supposedly they were witches and they were hung. It's just a lot of things in that area that's been investigated. No one seems to know what it is. Everyone has different theories. They claim it's demonic. The churches, it's got negative activity in it. All of those areas, the old home place, everything, has got some type of activity in it. And some good, some not so good. But I know Miranda has been to a lot of areas. And what is the most, say, questionable area that you've been into, Miranda, that you investigated and you got activity, but you couldn't explain some of the activity that was going on, whether it be negative or positive or whatever the case may be? What is the place that had the most activity that you had questions about?
You're right. I have been to a lot of places that's had just a wide array of activity. I'd probably have to say the location that had the most questionable activity would be, it was actually one that was filmed in my first season, and that would be the house on Sunset Hill.
Okay.
I can't give the exact location, but it is between Charleston and Chattanooga, or Charleston, Tennessee, and
Right.
Chattanooga, Tennessee. And the activity that I hope if people haven't seen the show that they'll go back and watch season 1, and they'll see what I'm talking about. But this house actually housed the haunted relic that I was investigating in episode 2, which was this haunted tub. That the story goes that there was a monk who had been in a train wreck, and a doctor who was treating the patients during the train wreck had taken his body back to his home and skinned it down to the skeleton and hung that skeleton in his doctor's office.
Oh, dear.
And so, yeah, so it was, I'd done all this research all the way from the flood that caused the train wreck to the actual train wreck, to where the train wreck occurred, to where the tub was located. And the tub was located in this home that had been abandoned for 10 years. The family that owned the home had purchased it from an estate sale from the doctor's family. And this was supposed to be the alleged tub. So I went in to investigate this, and I got so much activity in this home while I was trying to film episode 2 that I wasn't sure if the activity inside the home was coming from the tub being in there, or that the activity I was getting from the tub was actually stuff that was coming from the house. So I did that investigation, filmed that episode, and I called the homeowner and found out from the homeowner that a lot of stuff had happened inside this home, and that there had been 2 deaths, and that there was just some different things that had brought on potentially some of this activity. And so that night, I tend to travel pretty light because I'm on the bike. I had my equipment from where I'd been investigating this tub, and so I thought, well, I'm going to do a small-scale investigation inside this house. It's not a very large house. It's a split-level house from the 70s. So I was able to conduct a couple different experiments throughout the home, and just got a ton of activity, everything from some Class A EVPs to flashlight responses to K2 responses. I was getting, and they were intelligent responses. And so I asked the homeowner if I could come back and actually investigate the home, and came back, brought a friend with me who is a very good paranormal investigator, and we did a full-scale investigation on the house, and the activity was just nonstop from the minute we started until the end of the episode. We actually ended up doing a season finale, or doing that with the season finale. The home monopolized technically 2.5 of the episodes in season 1, which was really unintended. And it went on to be an open case for us for the last year and 2 months. And going back and forth to that house, I've done a couple lives there, and one of them that I did back in March was probably the most watched, most circulated, and probably the most off-the-chain live that I've ever experienced. And people are still talking about some of the activity that we got in there. It was supposed to just sort of be a 15-minute live, and it turned into be about 2 hours. And what I had done was I went on. People knew this was an open case, and actually people, every time I run into people who watch the show, they ask me about this home because we had so much happen, and they're, what's going to happen with it? What have you been doing with it? And so I was telling them, that this has been an open case. I've been conducting experiments and tests there in the home. And what I did was I put a call out on Facebook to ask people to send in questions that they have that they would like for us to ask. And so what I did was I recorded those questions onto a recorder. I also went to the homeowner. She's close to 80 years old. She doesn't go into the home. She hasn't been in there in, like I said, a I guess, between 10 and 12 years, and had her ask questions because she actually had connections to one of the spirits that is in that home. And so we had her do that, and I set up 5 different cameras, and so I was going to go live and have people tell me where to put the cameras and kind of be there during the setup. But we had so much activity. People were actually having activity in their homes while this was going on. It was a cool thing. Yeah, and just on command, I mean, flashlights going off and things shaking the garage door while we were downstairs inside the basement. I mean, at one point, I actually thought there was the potential of somebody coming in. I thought somebody was in the house. And so by the time it was over, we had, we went off Facebook Live, but we still had our cameras going. And, of course, I'm hooking up cameras. And as soon as I start the recorder I had recorded the homeowner's questions first, and then it breaks, and then it leads into my questions. But I had, it was, first of all, we were getting ready to get off the live. Flashlights would go off. Things would go off that would kind of start to distract me as I was signing off. And, we'd start to sign off the live, something would happen, and we'd be like, oh my gosh, did you see that? And start kind of interacting with it. And then it's like, wait, we've got to get off here. We've got to, move on with things. And so clearly it was really trying to distract us and get attention. And so as soon as I start the recorder and had the homeowner's voice come on, the floor started shaking beneath me. And every single meter in that home, the flashlights downstairs in the basement, the ones in the kitchen, the ones in the hall, the ones in the bathroom, everything started going off in succession. And, I mean, the floor was just shaking. It was the craziest thing. And we've got it on video, and Josh is like, okay, we have got to go. And so we go out of the house, and we get in a vehicle. And so I'll never forget this, we were saying our prayer of protection and as we were leaving, and I remember raising my head and looking up from my prayer, and you could see everything flashing in the different areas of the house. It was burned in my mind. It was so insane.
And you started to run towards the car, right?
We were in the car at that point.
Oh, okay.
So we left, and the next night we were going to go pick everything up that evening. And, I don't really get scared or nervous when I go to places, but we were both actually very nervous about going back to that house and picking everything up. And both of us have never felt that way about that home. I knew there was something aggressive, and at least 2 things in there that was aggressive and not very nice. But I really felt it that evening. And when we went back that night to get everything out, I had made the conscious decision that I was going to not acknowledge it. And what's in that house wants to be acknowledged. That's what's pretty crazy about it. The most experiences that I've ever had at a place, it's always been where usually you pull a camera out or you pull a recorder out, they'll kind of get quiet a lot. But this one, it's like it likes the attention. And so when we were in there, it was doing things to get our attention and to get us to acknowledge it. And we didn't, but we also had the camera running. So we got some really interesting things from that. So, it's just that would probably have to be the place that is the most, probably the creepiest, the most intriguing, and the most, leaves me with the most questions.
Wow. Miranda, I must tell you that I don't know which one, but I did see one. I did see one of the films. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know which one now because you said there were several, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But
yeah.
I do remember the scene in the bathroom, and you were sitting there. And did you have candles lit?
Yes, we
Okay.
did that in, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it kind of bled over. Episode 2 was about the tub, and then we had the home giving us activity into, and then we went into episode 3, and I believe episode 3 started with me on the phone with the homeowner, where she was telling us about the different activity that was going on in there. So, like I said, we didn't intend for that to take up as much real estate in season 1 as it did, but it was definitely something that needed to be investigated further.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing
Sounded
about
worthy to me.
yeah, heck yeah, I would have done the same thing. Yeah, I would have done
I'd
the same
still be
thing.
there.
Yeah, I would probably still be there. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's been an open case for us for a year and 2 months, and we definitely got some answers from it, and did some very, very cool things over the past year. So yeah, it was actually really cool to be able to have the opportunity to go in and work on that case.
Well, season 1, for everybody out there listening, go online and pull up her site and watch all of those series. Watch all of those different episodes that she has, and it's very well put together. I really like it. It's very well put together, very well informative, and you seem very calm when you're doing this stuff, and that to me is a lot better than watching some of these I don't knock shows or I don't knock groups.
Right.
I don't put names out there, but there's a few there's a few groups that I shake my head at, and a few shows I shake my head at. But for us being in the paranormal field and doing this, it's not something that we consider. I don't, because I guess I'm marked, but we feel like that we're led to do this. It's something that needs to be told, and a lot of these spirits out there, they do have a story to tell, and some of them, it's not so good, and some of them, it's hey, help me move on, and that's what we try and do. And also, another thing, and you know this yourself, Miranda, on shows, or even when you're doing live filming, live footage, things like that, a lot of times that spirit will kind of like come into that setting, but it also can take it a little further too. What I mean by that, it can teleport itself into, say, ramping up someone else's, spirit activity, maybe 100 miles away, 5,000 miles away, it doesn't matter. I've definitely seen that happen. And that's why I don't watch too many of the paranormal shows. Because believe it or not, there are some legit paranormal investigators out there that do have these shows, and Miranda is one of them. That it can invite awakening of spirits, say somewhere else. Not to say it's going to happen, but there is times that it does, especially when you're dealing with something negative. Because they're like
and that was.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was the first time I had actually experienced that from that end from having the live. I mean, there was people on the live, and they are legit investigators that I firmly believe they were having activity ramping up at their home. I think there were 2 people who were mediums or sensitive, and they were having stuff, and then another demonologist actually, he was having issues in his house, and I know that just from talking to those three folks in particular, that they are legit and investigators with integrity. I believe they truly were having activity.
Absolutely. I don't know the circumstances, but I do know that it happens. And,
Yeah.
For some of these groups, and I believe you and I have talked about this, some of these groups that want to be paranormal investigators, they just want to jump into this stuff, and it's not a real good idea to do that.
Right.
You need to be, you need to be seasoned. You need to be very, very informative and be really intuitive to what you're dealing with. You need to understand what you're dealing with. What the heck was that?
That's
Was that
right.
you?
No, it sounded like a freaking train horn. There's no damn trains
what?
around here.
Well, it's one of those things where, I think that, yes, it can be a fun and exciting thing. It can be a thrill-seeking thing to go and investigate, these different commercial locations and such. But, and that's all fine and good. But, to really get into it and to really get into it as helping people or trying to find answers, it's definitely something to take seriously and to not take lightly, and to be prepared. Some people I know, and I'm also this way. Sometimes I like to go into places not knowing certain things to see what kind of things I can pick up on. But for the most part, I say, do your research. And I don't just mean about that specific location. I mean it just about the whole field and community in general.
Absolutely.
And know that it's very serious and things can happen if you're not careful.
Absolutely. And to me, we're all human beings. We're not godlike people that like heroes or superheroes that can go in and just combat anything that comes at us more so than anybody that's living in that place or working in the area that we're investigating. So, I mean, to me, it's kind of like I walk in, a lot of times I don't really want to know that much history about the place. A lot of times I get information. Intuitively, things I'll be told, and sometimes it actually goes against what has actually been written up or what the history reads. So, that's important.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying when I was answering your question earlier,
Right.
is that, I have found some things, sometimes it's been a little bit different once I've actually gotten in there versus what I've found, in the history books or in the newspapers.
But you would be okay if you walked into a place, and especially if you've heard information about, well, this place has definitely got some things you need to look into, and that, they've seen things, they've heard things, and so on. And then you walk in and there's absolutely nothing, or you start to look at things to where, nothing at all is really happening, or what is happening can be explained by science.
Right.
So how do you handle that part of it? Have you ever gone in and said, okay, well, this is the situation, this is what's really happening? Do you ever expose it that way?
I have, and honestly, that's how I usually walk into a lot of places. I like to refer to myself as a skeptical believer. I am definitely a believer in stuff, but when somebody tells me something is happening, I don't want to say I'm skeptical of them, but I know that not everything is paranormal. I know the majority of things that happen are not paranormal. And I'm basing a lot of that on, like, for instance, with my photography, if you go and you take 100 pictures, you might be lucky if you get one or two, at the most 5, that may have something that you can't explain in it. I've been with some people that have taken 100 pictures and 90 of them are paranormal, based on what they thought, But to can be explained. So I think a lot of the time that can be the case in these locations. So that's why for me, if somebody calls me in, if I'm actually doing a house or doing a location business that someone has actually called me into that they're having an issue, I spend a lot of time listening to them tell their story and tell their experiences. And then I'll spend that time trying to research and see what has actually been going on, if there's anything significant that's happened on the property. And then I like to go in and look at different things. You know, how old is the building? What type of wiring is going on in this building? Is it a drafty building? Those sort of things to see if it could potentially be something. You know, if they're catching something on their security cameras, you know, well, okay, I want to know what does this area look like in the daytime so that I can see how close, you know, the road is to the building. You know, is there cars coming by? You know, a lot of the time I like to see if there's something that can be explained. And I have no problem telling someone, you know, I feel like it's this. Very rarely do I classify anything as paranormal. I will usually classify something as, I will go about as far as to say it's unexplained to me. I cannot explain this, or that the location is restless or active. And then, but if I can actually explain some of the things, then I have no problem, you know, telling someone that, I mean, this is what I think. You know, they're welcome to, I guess, get a second opinion.
Well, yeah, of course, absolutely. But, wow. I think it does make a difference. I think that the more honest you are with the individual, you know, they may be disappointed. Some really want to think that that's what's going on. You know, there's just, it's a euphoric thing. You know, oh, we've got a ghost in the house. We've got a spirit. Oh, you know, it's like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people are a lot of people are quick to blame it on, you know, spirit, you know, paranormal activity. And, you know, paranormal is the unexplained. I mean, you know, just because you say paranormal doesn't mean, you know, you got a ghost in the house.
Right.
But like you said, though, Miranda, you have to look at that house. You have to look at the environment. You know, you have to do the history of what was there before that place was built, whatever the case may be. And, you know, were there any civilizations in that vicinity, say 200, 300, 400 years ago? I mean, who was there? You know, what was the location like? And things of that nature.
Exactly.
You know?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of people, you know, they hear these old houses creak and doors slam and things of that nature. It could be just a draft. It could be an AC unit, you know, sucking a door in or something. Those are things that you really, really have to get under your belt and go and search it and you know, and debunk it if you can. A lot of times you can't.
You do.
But there's a lot of places, and I know there's a lot of places here, because Florida is pretty much built on lime rock and shell rock and, you know, and water. We have a lot of water here. So, I mean,
a lot of water.
Yeah, everything there has energy, whether it's, you know, being brought in or whatever the case may be. And I'll tell you another thing. Someone found a mammoth bone out from one of the developments up north, probably 30 miles from here. But they had the people out there digging around for these mammoth bones, you know, to see if they could, you know, unearth all of these things. Well, guess what? It wasn't even in that location. They brought the damn stuff in from some other place, you know, and the bone just happened to be in there. So, you know, we have to look at all of that. You know, what type of materials coming in? What is you know, the foundation like? Are there any underground?
Exactly.
Any underground sewers? You know, old pipes. It doesn't matter whether it's 50 or 100 years old. And you know, those are the things you really, really have to look at And that's what a good investigator does. And
You do, and that's why too, going, if you have the opportunity, if I'm actually working on a home for somebody, I will do a preliminary interview and do, a walkthrough looking at some of these different things. And, I mean, you both know as well as I do that, there are some nights where sometimes things just don't happen.
Exactly.
Either they're not comfortable with you or it's just not active. So just because something doesn't happen that one time you're there doesn't mean, absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt that the story that this person is telling you is not so. But that's why I like to, if I have the opportunity to go on multiple occasions, just to kind of, if I've got a lot of stuff, kind of test to see, okay, is this consistent? Or if I get nothing, just try a few different things and see, maybe I'm having a nice night. So if I can, go by the rule of two, that always kind of helps me, I like to verify, if one piece of equipment is doing something, I like to have another piece of equipment that I can kind of back it up on.
absolutely, validate it.
So, yeah. So to me, that's a big part of it, is if I can get, go multiple times to test that.
I know there's one set of, I know there's one piece of equipment that you use that I use also, but you don't see it often. There's not a lot of people around that know how to do it. How about the dowsing rods? You like those?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. I really like my dowsing rods. I like those because, a lot of the spirits that we're dealing with, not all, but a lot of them may have experience with those, know what they are. When you're dealing with older entities, I mean, shoot, it could even be 20-year-old, entities from 20 years ago, they may not know about, the real high-tech electronic devices.
Right.
But the rods are easy, so if they've not ever used them in the past, it's just as simple as, touch this and, cross for yes, keep them straight for no, or to shift them in the position where they're standing. So it's very easy for them to manipulate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe, though, sometimes, and here's where, when you have people generally that are watching this, and their first question or their first statement, it would be, well, are you moving those rods?
Yes.
They don't trust what they're looking at. Even I've used rods when I was in England, briefly, and we were at the Avery Circle, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And there were different areas there, and as I walked to a certain spot, the rods would move. And I was saying, well, I hope I'm not moving these things, because you know what I'm saying. You don't
Absolutely.
have 100% control over those things.
Exactly, and that's what people, you can show them. And one of the things I like to do whenever I do some of these events and meet and greets is I always have my rods there. And sometimes I'll do investigations, like a guest tour guide or whatever. I like to let people use those rods so that they can actually see how, you can't control them. Now, if it's a slight movement, obviously you can make them move.
Right.
But a test
That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. A test that I recently started doing to kind of help control this is I like to, like for instance, if I'm in a location that's got, I don't know, let's say for instance the mausoleum from episode 1 in season 1, I was speaking with Nina, her father, her mother, and then I know there was a baby that was in the mausoleum. I never really addressed the baby, but and then there's actually this garden that's there inside of the walls of that gate where different folks have they'll bury ashes from different people who were cremated. I actually didn't know that at the time, but learned that after the fact, and that could have actually accounted for some of the other activity that I got there that didn't really seem like Nina or Mr. and Mrs. Cragmire. Anyways, what I like to do is, for instance, print out pictures of those specific people, and then print out something kind of random, like maybe a dog or an animal or a car, and get blindfolded, sit down with the rods, and have those pieces of paper kind of positioned around in sort of a clockwise, or a arch type position. And I don't know, which pitch, or really even if the rods are moving. And so I can rely on the camera guy, or if I'm collaborating with someone else, I will ask these questions like, can you point the rods at, Mr. Cragmire? Or can you point the rods at the dog? Or who am I speaking, ask specific questions that I really have no idea even where the paper is at. And we've actually had that work. So that's been sort of my way recently that I've tried to combat that, because you're always going to have skeptics. And I think that's healthy that people think that people don't necessarily believe everything they see until they experience it. But I can tell you that when someone who has never held those rods holds them for the first time, and you guys know this, when you feel that pull and feel that move, and then realize that you can't control where those stop and how that goes, it's a pretty crazy
Exactly.
feeling.
Especially when they cross. I mean, that's like,
Yes.
excuse me,
I know a couple of times, because I keep those in my bag and my go bag. But I've used dowsing rods on my job a few times, and and even the guys will say, "Yeah, there comes Timbo with his dowsing rods. He'll find whatever we need to find with them." I'm serious. I'm serious. Yeah, they do work. They do work.
They do.
Yeah, I believe in them. And
Yeah.
when I saw you with those,
When I saw them first. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I said to myself, when I saw you with those dowsing rods, I said, now there's a girl who has mountain roots, and she knows exactly what those freaking things are made for. And
That's right.
some people use willow branches, but
Yeah.
I prefer the dowsing rod. Yeah, so it's good. Yeah, I loved it. Now, let me ask you. You got season 2 coming out with your series,
Yes.
and you're going to release that the 1st of October.
Yes.
Where do you see you going when this series takes off? And it's going to take off. You know it is. Where do you see yourself at?
Gosh.
I'm going to say 5 years.
Oh gosh. I don't know. I mean, we have, this thing has grown so fast, and so it's grown so fast and so furious, really, just over this past year. I know that there are some new things that are going to be released next year. This year, basically, after season 1, we weren't sure if we were going to actually do a season 2. And before it was even over, people were asking, okay, when is the next season going to be? So we really thought about it, did some planning, because everything about this season, everything from the length of the episodes to the timing, the marketing behind it, I put a lot of thought into all of this, even before everything was actually released. And so that's kind of how this has been. Some really cool things that have happened just this year alone, meet and greets and different events have come out of this. Some bike rides, kind of taking the biker aspect of it and kind of doing more with that. So I can say that after season 2 releases, there will be more things. I will be more prevalent on my social media with more videos this year, leading up to if there is a season 3, which there probably will be, since I've already got some episodes filmed for that. As far as 5 years down the road, I'm not sure, but I hope we're still doing what we're doing, for sure.
Well, season 2.
Anything beyond social media as far as production?
Potentially, yeah. We did. I know I've had some different people ask. About a month ago, Josh and I released a video of us signing something. I can't say a whole lot about that, other than the fact that it is taking Ghost Biker explorations to the next level, and it's a very, very exciting thing. I hope to be able to release more information about that here pretty soon. I don't know if it will be before the season is over or if it'll be right after, but I can say that we did sign some things that are taking the season a little bit further.
Okay.
Well, Nedra and I both, we kind of like been in the music field for quite a long time, but neither one of us do it anymore. But we kind of like have an idea of what might be going on, but that's okay. You'll never hear anything coming out of our mouths about what it is. But here's
okay, Miranda, good stuff to do. Okay.
It's just us three talking.
But
listen, I don't know about you, Tim, but I didn't sign very many things. Okay.
Well,
I knew the law of the land there.
I'm going to just me, and I myself, I've turned down a few things just because of contracts. I've been burnt on contracts, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you guys. I'm not even going to say what the deal is, okay? But I just had bad luck with a contract, and that left a bad taste in my mouth.
Oh, I can tell you this about that. That was signing anything was not something that neither of us took lightly. And I'll tell you, from the minute season 1, episode 2 released, we had producers knocking on our door.
I'm sure
We talked to that one. We talked to the first one after episode 2 released, and learned real quick that was not the way for us or anything we're happy with, because this is something, and I made it very clear. Ghost Biker Explorations is something that it's me. It's what I do, and it's something that's not for sale. And so, so over the course of that time, I had actually been approached by 4 different producers in a short period of time. So anything that we signed, we were very, very particular, and was actually a very long time in the works.
There you go.
That way. Yeah, it was something that had been in the works for a back and forth of about 4 months before anything was ever agreed upon, and there were multiple iterations of, things being worked out.
Right, and we all know how those things work, but
yeah.
I want to get back to your series. The season 1 was your foundation. That's what you built everything on, and you worked very hard in doing so. You and Josh.
Yeah.
I commend you guys for that. And
Thank you.
that took off. That took off like wildfire. I'm telling you, it did. Season 2, when you came out with season 2, that's really where everything is going to start falling into place. Now you have some things set up for next year, season 3. I see you and Josh in 5 years having a dedicated series, say on the entertainment channels, whatever it may be, history channels, science channels, whatever the case may be. I see that happening.
The Travel Channel.
Yeah, I see that happening. And I also see that some of these other groups that are on there, I see you guys maybe sliding into their slot. I see that. And I really do. Because number one, you guys are authentic. And I don't think that neither one of you guys are going to be pushed around. Having someone to tell you, you need to do this, you need to do that, to a certain extent.
Right.
I don't see you guys, fudging stuff, pretending like something's there when it's not. I don't see that happening. Because reputation is something that is going to make your show either light up or go down. And right now,
Exactly.
You guys have the reputation of being honest, hardworking, and getting down to the facts, and, not pretending like something is there when something is not there. That's where the honesty comes in at. And to me,
Exactly.
people look at that, whether you know it or not, but being honest, that's something you don't really see much of anymore. A lot of people want to dramatize a lot of stuff, and I don't see that happening with you guys.
No, and that's what, when we were looking at the shows and the stories we were going to tell, for me, that's why history is first and foremost. The history and the travel is the most important. The paranormal has always been sort of secondary to me. We pick these small town locations that are going to highlight these small towns, these cities, these places that people may not know. So we give some kind of really cool, interesting facts about that place, and then we tell the story as to why we're there, and then there's the investigation. And my hope with all this is that if nothing really happens during the investigation, that the story is interesting and cool enough that it's going to carry the episode. And that's why, you guys may have seen some of these. I did a live down in Florida at the Lakeside Inn in Mount Dora. And, that place is rumored to have a fair amount of activity. Now, I set my hotel room up with cameras all night long, but I did probably about a 45-minute live. Nothing happened. Not even a blip on a flashlight or a ping on the K2 meter. But that was okay. And I like that when that happens because it shows a realness. And, it's cool to be able to interact with people that are tuning in. Yes, they might get bored and want to see something really cool and awesome happen. But I'm telling them this story about this inn where, presidents have stayed and where, a few tragic things have happened. And then nothing happens, but they're still there interacting. So, to me, like I said, it just shows a realness that sometimes people don't always see with the paranormal entertainment shows on TV. Yeah. And that's something we've always prided ourselves in. Now, I've been very fortunate, and when it comes down to the actual locations that we're investigating, we've been blessed with a lot of activity. But, if there's not, we're still going to show that. And like I said, I might not classify it as inactive or debunked if I can't clearly debunk it. But at least, if I don't go, if I go back and still don't get anything, we're still going to put it out there with the story.
That makes sense. You know, I do believe that Mount Dora is not far from Casadega, which I don't know if you've ever been there.
I went there on that very trip.
Okay. So they're not
Yeah.
far. They're not too far from each other, correct?
No, they're not.
Okay. So that could have a lot to do with it. And even if you go to Casadega, I would imagine that you found that it's already monopolized by all those that are living there, and everybody has taken up residence in the most haunted places, and you can't even do anything anymore. So, unfortunately, yeah, that's unfortunate because there's a lot that's going on there. But
Yes, and I don't know if it was the timing. I was there the day after 4th of July, so July 5th, and
Oh, my.
it was and it was really bizarre actually. There wasn't a lot of people there. And then they just weren't, the ones that were just wasn't very friendly.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
I was surprised, and it might have been the timing, you know, with being tourist season, and kind of they may have had an influx, and then it may have been slower at that point. But I was actually really surprised that they just weren't very friendly.
Oh, well, what are you going to do?
Well, we do have womps down here.
The what?
I said we do have, a few womps down here, so not so friendly people. Yeah.
But
Well,
you know,
when
I
it comes
tend
to
go back.
money, when it comes to money, Miranda, it's they're not going to be making money from you, okay?
Right.
Unfortunately, you're not looking to be, like what's the entertained. So because you know things, and they're not looking. They have their own group of people that know things, and it's become, from what I understand, very commercialized and touristy. And I've been wanting to go there for a long time, and I've changed my mind.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know, I would probably go back at some point, maybe at a different time of year, but it won't be specifically to go back there. It would more or less be if I'm in that area, stop by. I was disappointed, so.
Well, it's their loss.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. Was their loss. There's a lot of places in this area that we're going to try to put on the calendar and get out there and do some investigations with. One of them is Watson Island, and it's not that far from us, but the only way you can get to it is by boat. And
Okay.
a little bit about that, back in the 1800s, this guy, he rode with Quantrell Raiders up in Missouri and all through there. Do you guys hear that?
Yes. Do you live by the tracks? Do you live by the train tracks? That's what it sounds like.
I'm a ways from the train tracks. I'm up on a hill. There are train tracks down below the hill.
How about you, Tim?
No. I'm probably 20 miles inland. There's no trains here. Can you hear it?
Yes. But what does it sound like to you? You're closest to it, aren't you, or no?
Well, I brought it to everyone's attention earlier that I thought I heard a freaking train.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
And I don't have anything going except for the other platform. And I know there's no train on that.
What musical instrument does that? Doesn't a horn with a muffler do that? Sound like that?
Are you talking about a trumpet or a trombone or not a sax? But
Well, either one.
I don't know.
Doesn't that sound like that to you, Miranda?
I've got my headphones on, so
You don't hear anything at all? Oh,
I've got noise cancelers on.
but we're on the phone, so you don't hear it through the phone?
Little bit. I can hear a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Huh. Okay, well,
Well,
if a damn train comes through my studio, I don't know. You guys are more than welcome to come investigate it. But, you know.
It's going to sound like a four-piece band. We only have two more. I think we need drums and maybe a vocalist. And we'll have it together by the end of the conversation. So.
Well,
There we go.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know.
Miranda, between you and I, Tim plays this game every so often. I think he's having fun. Okay, that's what I think.
Yeah, some kind of little train game.
Sound effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, you never know. I mean, we hear stuff like that. At times. I know Nedra hears it more so than myself, but she'll call me. Did you hear that? I listened to the audio. Did you hear it? No, I didn't hear it. Okay, we'll go to such cut. Number, and listen to it. I go to. I don't know. I don't know. I really didn't hear it. I didn't hear that part, but I heard this part. It manipulates the system. It really does. I think it's just, sometimes it has fun with us. And, yeah. So, but anyway, it is what it is.
It's a tribute to you, Miranda. That's all. It's saying hi.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I was talking about, the ghost on the track, so.
Oh.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
But I was going to ask you if at one of those times that you were there, if you actually heard the train at all, or if you heard the horn or something, what do you call it? The engine, the horn,
the whistle.
the whistle.
There was one point we did hear, but it was hard to. I couldn't really say if it was a phantom train or not because there are a lot of train lines in that area, and so and a couple of factories that really big manufacturing plants down the road from where we were investigating. So even though we heard and we thought a train was coming because we were near the train bridge, and you could actually feel the train bridge shaking because we were actually investigating under it because that was where the train was supposed to have crashed.
Right.
So we thought that actually there was a train coming at one point, and we kind of stepped back and waited, and the train never came. So in my mind, I wanted to sit there and say, oh yeah, that's a phantom train. But then when I really couldn't do that because it may have been going to one of the manufacturing facilities that was a couple miles down the road and just didn't make it down.
Right. Wow. That's funny.
Yeah.
Unless the arm dropped down and the lights went off, then of course you would have a certain amount of enough evidence to say, guess what? Look,
Exactly, and of course we weren't near where one of the arms were because we had kind of hiked back. Yeah, we had hiked back off the road, but yeah, it's always interesting when something like that happens because I definitely, we were on the lookout. I did take some pictures of something that looks like a person on the tracks, but we didn't get anything that we could definitively say was evidence of that. Just more so personal experience.
We have a lot of.
What type of camera do you use? Is it infrared or is there?
I use several different cameras. I've actually just upgraded so that since I am, for the most part, an army of one, little static cameras that are ran off of phone batteries. Those are actually in I use GoPros, and we've got a DSLR. Actually, for the most part, we kind of do something a little different. We use a lot and don't really film a whole lot in infrared unless we're using those static cameras, which a lot of people will use the infrared, but we may lose just a little bit of quality by using the light with our DSLR, but I kind of like that ambient light because I feel like you can see shadows and stuff better.
Okay.
I think the orbs come out a little bit more too, right?
Yeah, they can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Do you do investigations during the day also, or just at night, or how does that work?
I do. I do both, and it
Both?
just depends on the location. I get some of my best activity during the day, but because some of the places may be located in higher trafficked areas, I don't want to have that noise pollution or the disruption of what everyday daytime activity can cause.
Right.
I'll sometimes investigate at night. At night, obviously, tends to be more creepy, but there's been a couple places I've actually been able to spend the night in, and I record when I sleep. I'll sleep in these locations sometimes, and the activity that I get more in the morning may be more of a residual type, just daytime activity.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm in a hospital or a prison, you might get that hustle and bustle of morning activity, more so than the creepy stuff you might get in the middle of the night.
I hear you.
And again, I don't think spirit has any concept of time, but like you said, I mean, I think Nedra and I have talked about this. A lot of times, you do have more activity during the day than you do at nighttime, so, that does make a big difference. But it all depends on like you said too, Miranda, it all depends on the area, the activity in the area. You may be investigating something or someplace, that's in the middle of nowhere, and, there's nothing going on. So,
Exactly.
Definitely your activity is still going to be the same during the day as it would at night.
Exactly.
So, that's...
Well, I know that the activity that I've experienced even in my own place, of course, there's a golden rule, you never really investigate your own place, right?
Right.
But on occasion, I've had to. I mean, most of the activity that I get is early in the morning or, in the afternoon type thing. Nighttime, nothing. Nothing. So, but, hey, they're not on a schedule like I am, unfortunately, but they seem to, I don't understand it. I know I've gotten like 8 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. I get kind of, I get messages or I get somebody needing my attention right away, so I'm like, okay. Can't very well say come back in a couple of hours because, I need more sleep, but...
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of weird how that will happen sometimes. It always seems like there have been certain places for me that if I'm doing a commercial location that you've got kind of a set time, like maybe from 8 in the evening till 10 the next day or what have you. I've had where that 3, 4, 5 o'clock hour, it just almost like somebody's turned a light switch and it's just gone off. It's been dead. And then come about 6, 7, 8 in the morning, got some of my best stuff. It'll be different than what I got at 12, 1 in the morning the night before, but, I like to investigate in the day if I have the opportunity to do so. I think a lot of people, because, again, obviously because of TV and stuff, I think a lot of people think, that's when you do it, when the spirits come out, but it definitely is creepier at that time.
I had the TV going at 3 o'clock in the morning, are you suggesting that, and that's usually the time that they're out anyway. I mean, generally if you do an investigation, a lot of them like to come out and play around 3 o'clock. I mean, that's their time to start.
Mm-hmm.
But I've actually fallen asleep and, I've woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning and the TV is on. So I have to wonder everything, did I have company and, did they have fun? Yeah, right.
Exactly, yeah. It's, to me, it all just depends on the place. I will, with Mausoleum, I couldn't do it during the day and actually I couldn't do it up until way up into the night because it's there in the middle of town, and there's nothing worse than trying to investigate or do something and cars driving by or people talking, I try to, if at all possible, try to eliminate as much of that outside interference as I can. And that's tough sometimes at an outside location.
Are these places open for you, or do you have to get some sort of an okay from somebody? Because generally, don't they have hours when the public can go in, especially in a mausoleum?
Well, it all depends. That mausoleum is actually closed as far as being able to go into it. The gate is open anytime because of the nature of my show and the fact that I'm not really hitting a lot of these large commercial locations. I just kind of go and obviously I'm not going to break into some location, but with episode 1, we were at this mausoleum that was public property there. I don't know, public. It was on the church's property. It was open to the public. We just kind of went and did it, and then in episode 2, we went to the train crash site, which was there in town in Charleston, but I got permission from the homeowner to go into the house. Some of the places on season 3, either I have been invited to go to these locations and have investigated based on the time that they allow me to come in there, or it's been somewhere that there is a place that I did that was commercial. So I had, obviously I'd rented it out for the night.
Yeah, we pretty much have to get permission for everything around here.
Right.
They like to lock everything down. Keep.
They're closed by 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then you could go outside, around it, certain places, but overall they don't want you in there. There's been a lot of rough stuff going on. People, thieves like to go in there every so often, which that's another subject to get into. But so they're very careful. Very, they keep things tied up.
Pretty well secure, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, here, the cemeteries and stuff like that, a lot of them are just mountain backwood cemeteries, and they don't have hours. I know I was at a cemetery in Alabama, and, a lot of them close at dark. So we don't really have that problem too much around here.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It really is. I know when I lived in.
Be careful.
Yeah, I know when I lived up in that area, there was a lot of cemeteries, some old and some not so old, but they never had problems.
Yeah.
You can go in at any time.
No, you can. Most of them here, as long as you're not causing a nuisance or anything. But you just gotta be careful and use your head, because there has been problems with people doing drug deals in the cemeteries and stuff. That's been sort of a common problem as of late. But I know they had. I don't know. I can't remember if it was the news or where exactly I've seen that they were warning people who were doing paranormal investigations in cemeteries, that people were doing drug deals in the cemeteries.
Yeah.
Well, they must be seasoned investigators themselves that would actually have, to be brave enough to be in a place like that,
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
We got a caller, so let's see if we can get them in here real quick. Welcome to Paranormal Talk 2. Hi.
Hey, how you doing? From Pennsylvania. How you guys?
Hanging in there.
We're all right.
All right. This was about the movie Ghost Dad, right? I just signed on here. It's about the movie Ghost Dad with Bill Cosby, right? They said.
No.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. I thought this was a movie one.
No, it's Ghost
Okay,
Biker
well,
Explorations.
If you see it,
Yeah.
it's really good.
Yeah, I heard it was. I haven't seen it. Okay, that's okay.
Did he ride off?
Yeah, that's all right. But no, I heard it was a decent movie. So,
Ghost Dad?
yeah,
Is that what it was?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did see that movie, actually. It was kind of funny,
Oh,
though. Yeah.
But that's okay.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
That
to.
was years ago. Years ago.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, anyway, we got about
Now I
4
have to go watch
minutes.
it, right?
Yeah. We
I'll check that out if somebody's doing a podcast about it and call it in.
Yeah.
heck yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think the thing about Ghost Biker got kind of misconstrued, though. That's probably...
I'm sure it did, but we definitely appreciate Pennsylvania calling, though. You gave us some info. We'll all go watch Ghost Dad, and so that's
Wait
good.
a minute, there's another movie out there with Nicolas Cage. What was that? Wasn't where he was actually...
Ghost Rider, yeah.
Ghost
Yeah.
Rider, so that'll be
Well,
next.
see, that's what reminds
We'll
me
get to
of.
you soon, Miranda.
Yeah, Miranda riding a Harley. He's on a
Well-
bike. It's all tricked out.
Well, it's interesting, when I was coming up with what I was going to call this, it was originally going to be Ghost Rider Exploration. And I didn't want to get lost on, the search engine optimization or anything like that. I didn't want to come up behind that movie, so I thought about it and came up with Ghost Biker instead of Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I like that better anyway. Okay, guys, we got 3 minutes, so we want to thank Miranda for being on tonight, and and it's been fun with her, and it's always good to talk with her. She always has interesting stories and things. So definitely catch her series 1 and 2. That's coming in on
Definitely.
October the 1st.
Coming up. Yeah, 2's coming up on October 1st, and everyone will be able to watch it. They'll be able to watch. We will be releasing an episode every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and they'll be able to watch it on my YouTube channel, Ghost Biker Exploration, on the Facebook channel under the same name, as well as on my website at www.ghostbikerexploration.com. And like I said, we're doing a big push for that, having a big party at Harley this coming Saturday, a week from today. That's going to be a early release of of episode 1, and then everyone else will be able to watch it on Tuesday night if they're unable to come to the event.
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to get up that way and catch some of those events. You guys come down this way, we'll catch some down here. So,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
absolutely.
We've got that. We've got another event on October 12th with the Oneida, Tennessee Zombie Fest, and the proceeds from that goes to benefit suicide prevention and awareness,
Awesome.
and which is a very important cause to myself as well as
90 seconds.
And then I'm also doing a meet and greet and a presentation on October 26th in Hickory, North Carolina with Dr. Christy Sumner from Soul Sisters Paranormal. We're going to be talking about our collaboration that we did earlier this year at Henry River Mill Village, which is a location that's not really been, it's pretty new on the scene. It's
60
not really
seconds.
been investigated by too many folks, and so they're going to feature us at their party and let us talk about our collaboration. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities where people are going to be able to come out and interact, and we're hoping that there's going to be a lot more of those in the near future.
Great, awesome. Well,
Sounds
Miranda,
great,
it's been fun as always, and we're going to go ahead and end the episode. Nedra, thank you for being on tonight, as always.
Oh, sure. Enjoyed it, and thanks again. And Miranda, it was a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
So,
Absolutely. Same to you, Nedra. I've enjoyed it.
all right, guys. Hope everyone have a great night and
10 seconds.
a great week. All right. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.